What's going on, boys? Today we are talking a bit about AI and capital. And some concepts are starting to come together regarding the nature of things. So AI is clearly the best avenue toward the most efficient capital creation slash accumulation. And normally, when advancements like these come along, there is resistance, but it's pacified until the changes can be implemented, not entertained in any serious way. And the few times they are, as Teddy K observes, these resistances don't last. And this is because any real resistance is going to be coming from groups who have a monopoly on the former method of capital creation slash accumulation, a la slavery. But they are competing with a group who is in charge of a more effective form of capital creation slash accumulation. Even if you throw a temper tantrum and win, that temper tantrum being fueled, of course, by the people who are making the money, not by you, your transition into the more effective method is inevitable. Someone inside your little rebel group is going to want to get ahead and see that opportunity in that more effective invention, capital method, whatever you want to call it. Human nature is interwoven with capital. Every other form of life is bound by capital, bound by what is most efficient, but what sets humanity apart is consciousness. We're at the top because not only are we bound by capital, but also we can contemplate it, even if we don't realize we're contemplating it. Every single system, even if that system claims to be fighting capital, moves autonomously toward more efficient capital. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. AI. There are two opposing sides emerging regarding AI, and I find it interesting that the anti-AI side is being entertained as much as it is. Because regardless of which side you're on, AI is inevitable. That is as pure a form of capital as our species has created. The AI argument could be 0.1% of the population on the side of AI and 99.9% of the population against AI, and AI would still win. And that's because AI's potential for making money is insane. Even if that zero point 0.1 pro-AI percent gets stomped out, and there appears to be peace for a few decades, someone high up in that 99.9% is going to take what that 0.1% was working on and bring it to fruition on their own. That's greed, that's human nature. There's nothing we can do about it aside from extincting ourselves. And even if we did, we don't control capital. Capital controls everything. Something else is going to develop consciousness and become capital's favored puppets. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. What I think we're seeing right now with AI is like a Deus Ex Majestic 12 versus the Illuminati scuffle. The Illuminati, not saying the actual Illuminati, but the symbol of old money, of traditional money, of consistent money, is fighting AI. And they're fighting it because they see two issues, primary issues in AI. One, AI is so powerful, so efficient, so wealth creating, their positions as top dogs, as controllers of humanity, could be usurped, will be usurped. That's how powerful AI is. Hence why you see so many fucking boomers, proles, and especially artists doing what they do best, defending the status quo system, slavery as is. There's nothing I love more than the world as it is. Please, powers that be, step on my head harder. I am so terrified of the powers that could be. But that leads us to the second issue the powers that be see in AI. The annihilation of status quo power structures, of capital, of control. There is a good chance AI is so powerful it upsets everything. It's not just old money, traditional money, losing its first place spot, but losing spots altogether. And that's part of why I think this AI issue is beginning to intensify. The people who have control and the many morons who like being controlled recognize we might be looking at capital's new favored puppets. Majestic 12 type people might also recognize that, but see such opportunity in this technology, they're going to risk it. And if you stop them, then someone in the Illuminati, in traditional money, in old money, is going to do it themselves. AI is inevitable because capital is inescapable. Now, you could, in theory, set humanity back to the Stone Age, but even if you did that, even if you pulled a Ted Kaczynski, we would get back to this point eventually. It's inevitable. This level of efficiency exists, and as long as we exist, we're going to be flowing toward it, or some other horrifying form of efficiency. Now, I don't view AI as a bad thing, specifically because it's inevitable, and dangerous, especially because it's dangerous, especially because the people pursuing it are really stupid. Again, puppets of capital, not wielders of capital. They are moving in the direction. They have no say in the direction they're moving, really. They're moving there because that's the way they're supposed to move. Meaning, once they achieve this in full, in earnest, they aren't really going to know how to control it. That equals opportunity. If you hate the status quo, the people who run it, and the people who slave for it, then AI might be your only real chance to fuck all of them up. And in my opinion, there are only 3 ways this inevitability goes. The powers that be manage to wrangle this thing and create an even worse status quo. We destroy ourselves, or they destroy us, they being the machines, the blessed machines. Or there's a grand reshuffling, reordering of society on a scale we haven't seen before. Because this is inevitable, my fingers are crossed for the third. If we're doomed to be capital's puppets, then I want to be the ultra instinct puppet, dancing on my strings so naturally it's as if zero effort were required. Or put another way, you are as close to this force of nature as you can be. Your strings are getting tugged by one source, an intangible source. But now we can get into the force of nature shit. So you might remember a while ago, we established change is one of the few certainties in life. Whatever is now won't be at some point. Probably sooner than later. But that got me thinking. What persists through change? It's capital's dictation. If something exists, then it's going to try to figure out or evolve toward existing more efficiently. And it almost seems like change and capital combat each other. As matter sails forward through time, adopting whatever forms, Change figures out a way to wipe the slate clean. Change doesn't like structure. It doesn't like the persistence of form. Of a single form, rather. However, the moment that slate gets wiped clean, capital comes in and starts directing matter into more complicated, more efficient forms. Not even necessarily prioritizing consciousness. I think consciousness is one potential form of hyper-efficiency, but it doesn't have to be. Consciousness might just be one startup that is, for now, paying off rather well. And there's no escaping capital and efficiency in this way. Even systems designed to oppose capital end up serving it, because one, we are all programmed for capital, and then two, the best programmed for capital end up at the top. And thus, a system designed to oppose capital ends up becoming yet another capital generator by another name. That's human nature. If you want to oppose capital in earnest, then you would need to change human nature. But let's think about what would happen if we altered humanity to be selfless at its base rather than selfish. We would get mauled. Once again, something else, more capital attuned, would take us over. Or we would be vulnerable to change. More vulnerable anyway. Or we would let ourselves get moved down from the ones in charge to fuel for the ones in charge. And I was thinking about communism the other day. I don't think I could ever consider myself a communist for a number of reasons, but they're all fundamental flaws. Or maybe they aren't flaws. They might be, they probably are, frankly, crowd manipulation tactics. The common man shouldn't have a say in anything. I'm reminded of the first ENTJ woman I met in college and thought was crazy because she believed in monarchy. A system ruled by a central authority might fail. A system ruled by the people will fail. I didn't believe that then, I didn't get it then, but I'm beginning to. That's one of the reasons, the few reasons, the Illuminati side of the AI argument is interesting to me. I don't agree with it. I'm not on the anti-AI side at all, but I find it interesting that with enough capital, one can resist capital for a time. Not forever, but the fact it's possible at all is interesting. And then opposing or distributing capital, getting away from capital. Capital isn't something you can oppose, can distribute for long, or can ever get away from. Once again, without changing human nature and giving away our top dog spots. And once again, they know that. And I'm not even going to call it communism or socialism or whatever systems, anti-capital systems. If you believe humans can fight capital, which is a force of nature, a force of efficiency, then you deserve the boot you're going to welcome onto your neck. The only answer, to my mind, is figuring out how capital operates your system. Not operates within your system, controls your system, puppets your system, and try to become attuned enough with that expression of capital, or maybe a more efficient one, and then try to make changes that wouldn't be as miserable for humanity, that capital won't be opposed to. This is one of the reasons I recommend, there's a, I'll link it in the description. The CIA really doesn't want, I don't know who doesn't want, someone doesn't want these ideas floating around. I'll link it in the description. You can be happy in accordance with capital, but maintaining happiness in accordance with capital requires a difficult level of attunement with it. Because the moment something comes up that is more efficient, It doesn't matter whether it's going to make you happy or unhappy. Because it's more efficient, someone is going to make it happen. So I think someone needs to stay ahead of the curve and try to figure out which happy options there are and try to get capital to, like fishing, trying to get the capital fish to bite the happier ones rather than the unhappier ones. It doesn't care, or capital doesn't care which one it bites, and a human being doesn't care which one is going to make most people happier or unhappier. They're going to do whatever they can get their hands on first. Capital is going to bite whichever one it's presented first, as long as it's the most efficient. I think there is a way to work these forces of nature, but that's not, as far as I know, that's not what's ever happened. It's probably not ever going to happen, but it could. And in our time, trying to figure out how to use AI in the most cuttingly efficient way that will also make people happy is our best bet moving forward. But that's not what's going to happen. Dumb fuck, status quo, old money slaves, artists are going to resist it to the bitter end, and some genius who has no idea what's going on is going to unleash AI in its purest form upon all of us. And at that point, all we'll really be able to do is hope. I will say, though, accepting that change and capital are forces of nature, the idea is nothing is going to last forever except for the direction toward whatever is most efficient, makes life a little less miserable. Because you come to understand life is always going to be this miserable or worse no matter where you are, or when you are, rather. Hoping doesn't hurt as much because you realize or understand more there isn't anything more to hope for. And I'm wondering what other fundamental forces of nature there are. And I'm telling you, doubt is super important. I'm still on the spiritual side of things fundamentally because of the monad, the great question, but the degree to which chemicals affect your happiness is distressing, right? I feel bad almost all the time, no matter what I do. Vitamins, routines, reflection methods, whatever you want to call them, most of them don't work for me. But eating particularly spicy food, for that 5 minutes I'm doing it, I feel everything is okay. And that's a chemical response. Our existence as chemical reactions is unsettling. And of course, people can't accept individuals respond to different things differently. I don't know why. I mean, I like lifting weights. I don't know why lifting weights doesn't really make me happy. Eating spicy food for 5 minutes gives me 5 minutes of everything is fine. I have no idea why that's the case. And this is why doubt is important. How much of our existences are chemical reactions? Are our spiritual experiences or beliefs or needs to worship rooted in chemistry? That crowd psychology book, that was written before atheism, capital A atheism, took over, but it theorized atheism as a dogma, a worshipping dogma, way before capital A atheism was a thing. Popularly, crowdly. To what extent is that chemical? Now, I still fall in the spiritual side of things, but to deny the reality of the chemical side of things is to deny your faith. Faith isn't something you achieve by covering your eyes and hoping never to doubt. Faith is questioning until you come upon facts and questions you can no longer answer. And you can put those together. But we're rambling, so we will summarize and wrap this up. Jumps toward greater efficiency are inevitable. The pro-change side will be pushing for this development so they can usurp old money, cement their powers or wealth further, or upset everything. And then on the other side will be the status quo, the no change group, and they'll be against change because if they're up top, they will have figured out how to work the current system well enough to control everybody else. They don't want the levers taken from them. And they will push for this no change by controlling really stupid people who think the status quo is a good thing. They like the way they are presently controlled. And these warriors for slavery are ironically going to be labeled the more ethical ones. But in either case, the advancement is going to happen because capital, in the sense matter moves toward ever more efficient states, is a force of nature. You're either the height of efficiency or you don't exist, which I think is another form of efficiency. Regardless, when change sweeps across the world and forces everyone to start over, capital will be the thing directing them. There's no escaping it. Unless you'd like to stop existing or to modify yourself into a state that will soon cease to exist. I think the only way to win is to figure out options that are hyper-efficient and happy. Because capital is going to pick whatever is the most efficient it's presented with first, so if someone is ahead of the curve, they can try to keep things less dystopian. But of course, that's not going to happen. You, however, as an individual, might be able to attune yourself with capital and efficiency, and maybe can make things better on a smaller scale. But you'll do that by attuning yourself with capital and efficiency, not by pretending to fight it or by just letting it control you. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. God, I know most of our core audience is composed of anarchy-coded artists. So I just know this one's going to go over well. Oh god, at least we don't have the capitalist crowd, at least we don't have the communist crowd. Shit. I know there are AI-aligned artists out there, but I am one. I'm an author. I'm on the AI's side, but I don't see AI-aligned artists very often. Regardless, like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes. And comments, thoughts, love hearing from you. What other forces of nature do you think there are out there? The super fundamental ones. I think the more of those we can figure out and then attune ourselves to, the better off we'll be. Trying to attune ourselves to change has made things a little bit better. Once we can figure out how to attune ourselves to capital, I think we'll be even better. Once we can figure out the other super fundamental forces and attune ourselves to them, maybe we'll ascend. Who knows? Thanks again for watching, everybody. Really a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun. In fact, you can... I don't know. What does AI do? You can make it super efficient. You can subtract humans from the equation, which wouldn't even really be a bad thing. That's so much fun we have on this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.